My name is Jessica Schelling, and I'm one of the librarians here at the Atlee branch of the Pamunkey Regional Library. And today we're going to talk a little bit about becoming a citizen scientist, which, as you'll learn, is really very easy to do. As long as you have a computer or if you have a smartphone. Even if you don't, there's different programs that you can participate in. Just to let you know, we are recording this in order to post to our website later on. So if someone wasn't able to meet with us during this time, that they can view it and learn as well. Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, great, wonderful. All right, so let me get started a little bit. Let me ask both of you a question. Who has actually heard about becoming a citizen scientist, or do you have any ideas of what it is to be a citizen scientist? Hugh, why don't you go first?
Well, I just saw the topic and it looked interesting, but I have no idea what you're going to cover.
Great. And what about you, Diane?
The only that I saw.
I'm sorry, Hugh, go ahead.
Okay. The only one thing I saw was that there was a group that recorded rain. And they, at 7 o'clock every morning, they'd go out and check the rain gauge and then record how much rain they'd gotten over the 24 hours.
Great. And what about you, Diane?
Yeah, I've done it with Cornell University with their backyard feeder watch.
Okay, the big backyard bird count?
Yeah, that one, and then they also have Project Feeder Watch, which is from November to February.
Okay, all right. So you both are actually, obviously a little bit aware of what it is. Basically, the citizen scientist is the crowd of individuals who are not scientists helping to gather data in order to help scientists learn more about our world. One of the earliest modern day crowdsourcing of citizen scientists was actually a Monarch butterfly project where they were tracking the migrations. In the 1950s, they developed a way of tagging individual butterflies, but the two scientists quickly realized that just the two of them themselves would never be able to tag as many butterflies as they needed to in order to track the migration. And so they asked for volunteers, and hundreds of people responded, and hundreds of people started tagging and paying attention to where those tagged butterflies ended up. And in the mid-70s, they were able to track a butterfly that had been tagged in Minnesota by a man and two of his students down in Mexico. And that was the first time that we really knew that the monarch butterflies actually migrated from all the way from Minnesota, high up in North America, down to Mexico. So like I said, that's one of the earliest. Hugh, you had mentioned the weather forecasting. Not forecasting, but monitoring different weather stations. That has definitely been a crowdsourcing project for many, many years, where people set up backyard or front yard rain gauges or other temperature gauges, whatever, and then they call it into the different weather bureaus. But now with computers, it's just totally expanded about what we can do. And now that we have these powerful computers in our hands called mobile phones that we can take with us everywhere, it's just really exploded. I wanted to talk a little bit about why we can actually trust the citizen science that comes out of this. First of all, whenever individuals contribute to a science experiment, they are checked by experts. So the data is sent in and then it's verified. We also now can do photo submissions. So currently with the crowdsourcing, which is using the crowd of humans around the world in order to gather this information, 40% of the citizen scientist programs actually include photographic evidence. So if you're tracking ladybugs and you want to see what type of pattern the ladybug beetle has, people are taking pictures of those ladybugs and sending it in. And so that's proof that they are actually tracking these particular ladybugs. Also, a lot of times, even though the citizens aren't scientists, the citizens will get some training before they actually gather it. About 20% of the citizen scientist projects do require a little upfront training before they will allow you to generate data for them or collect data. We can also tell that the data is good by the replication by multiple participants. So, you know, if one person were to say, well, gee, this blue jay in the springtime had 5 eggs, you know, there must be a trend. Well, that one person saying that wouldn't be enough. But if you have hundreds of people in that one area saying, hey, blue jays are starting to have larger clutches, then that would also verify that data. You also have redundancy in data requests. So when the actual scientists who create these experiments or observations, they will create the questionnaires or the type of questions that the citizen scientists are asked so that you come at the data in different ways. So it might ask, for instance, when checking a nest, well, how many eggs did you see on this particular day? But it will also ask to check every single day. So you have both this one individual day and then a backup of every single day. It's also important for the people that create the experiments to attract the correct type of participants. So one example that I read about that I thought was really kind of interesting, back in the 1800s, yes, this crowd citizen scientists has been going back that far. And Diane, if I mispronounce this, please let me know. Ornithologists are the scientists that study birds, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so ornithologists asked lightkeepers at the different lighthouses to report which types of birds that they saw that hit the actual lighthouses, because they wanted to keep track of it to see, you know, what migratory patterns are going on with these different lighthouses. And what they found was, even though the lightkeepers were very good at reporting what they found, the lightkeepers themselves were not ornithologists. And so they just used whatever local name for the birds the locals in that area called the birds, which could be very different from, you know, their scientific name, or even from region to region. And because they were not using the correct terminology, the data was really, it didn't help them at all, you know, because they couldn't actually, they didn't know what the lighthouse keepers were actually telling them, which type of birds they were being hit. An example of finding a really great participant is one of the programs that I'm going to show you really quickly a little bit later on is the missing lady or ladybugs. Scientists realized that kids love insects and they love examining insects. So they created this experiment that is geared towards children. And it's almost like they have this treasure hunt where they have to find these different types of ladybugs. And so even while you would think, well, how good are kids at science, especially young ones, when it comes to looking at little things really up close and being really excited about it, kids are the perfect participants. So next, I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of the websites that you can go to in order to find different programs or experiments. And the first one we're going to go to is called citizenscience.gov. Citizenscience.gov. And I'm going to share my screen here. All right, and can both of you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so this is the library homepage, which I always start up with. But here we are on citizenscience.gov. And of course, since it's a .gov, you know, it's a government website. This website has a catalog and listing of all science experiments going on that are being funded by the US government or actually managed and conducted by people that work for the government. And it's super easy to find something that you would be interested in. Excuse me. So if you go to catalog here, we can view the projects. And you can narrow it down somewhat, but you can look at the status. So you can choose whether or not you want an active or a completed project. I'm going to choose active. You can choose by agency, which kind of gives you an idea of what it might be about. But I would prefer to also view by the field of science. So here we have animals, archaeology, astronomy, chemistry. And I just want to say one thing that I was really heartened with was like astronomy, because I am interested in the sky and space and so forth, but I don't own a telescope. And I also live in suburbia, so I don't really see the night sky that very well. You don't actually need a telescope in order to help with these. A lot of times you will have pictures that the NASA has taken of the sky, and they need human eyes to look at those photographs and help determine what you are looking at. So I'm just going to choose a couple of ones here. Let's see, birds, since we have Diane. Let's see, Hugh, what kind of topics are you interested in?
Well, I was interested in the weather.
Weather, okay. I'm not seeing weather here. Ocean and water marine, that might include weather. Ecology and environment also might include weather. Climate and weather, there, that's better. Okay. So now that I've done that, we have a whole bunch of different things. The one part of this website that kind of frustrates me a little bit is that you can't limit it by geographic location. There are a number of projects that you do not have to be in that location in order to participate in, because you can do it from the computer, You could be anywhere in the world. Some of them, you do have to be close into it. So for instance, if we looked at this stellar watch, you're actually looking at images or trying to find images of sea lions. Actually, this one you would be able to do it from, because they've taken hundreds of thousands of images taken by camera stationed in the islands of Alaska, and they need our help in order to find out which images have sea lions present with readable markings and which ones don't. So you would get a bunch of photographs and you would look at the photographs and then you would just mark off which ones have the sea lions that they're looking for. And you get to look at the pictures of the sea lions and remote Alaska. So, I mean, you're going to have that beauty there as well. So you can kind of visit the Aleutian Islands without actually going there. Let's see if we can find something. Let's see. Biochar. I think I may have made it a little bit too broad. This isn't weather or bird related, but this is a project that I was looking at earlier that I think is really interesting. It's called Nurdle Patrol, and nurdle are little pieces of plastic that have broken down from larger pieces. And they're actually asking people to look for these nurdles along beaches and riverbanks and everywhere else to see. They're trying to track how plastics are moving around in our water. So it'll ask you to take pictures and tell exactly where you found it and how many nurdles you found and everything else. And you can kind of see why that would be important to know if we're trying to see about pollution, and also that, you know, wildlife, especially marine life, are eating these plastics, thinking they're food, and they're not. So they're not getting any kind of nutrition from them. Let me just go, oh, hive sites. There's an air sensor toolbox. Okay, so this is air quality sensors, which really, that's more of the EPA versus weather. Let me just go back and I'm going to narrow this. Oh, it didn't actually, that's why, because it just, okay, so that should be climate and weather, just climate and weather. Track trails. Old weather. Oh yes, this is one I was looking at earlier. It's kind of cool. Basically, you go back and, you know, they have digitized all of these old weather records, but they really don't know that you can't machine search these digitized records. So they're asking people to help transcribe Arctic and worldwide weather observations from ship's logs from the 19th century. And I think that's kind of cool because it's combining history along with the weather. And if we're talking about looking at trends of how weather has changed through the years, we really need to know, you know, what the weather was like in the 18th or the 19th century. So that would be really cool, actually, I think. And even going into World War II. Would that be something that would interest you at all?
Yeah, that would be kind of neat because you'd read a little bit about the ship itself, probably.
Yep. Yep. All right. But as you can see, it's very easy to find something that you could participate in. I want to talk about another website, and that's scistarter.org. Scistarter.org has a much larger group of science projects that you can choose from. That's because it's not limited just to government science. You're going to have science from, universities. You're going to have science from nonprofits, from pretty much anywhere you can think of. And one thing that's nice is that you can narrow down the searches a little bit more on this website. So if we go by keyword here and we do a search for weather, and go to topic, and is weather, whoops. Science, insect, geology, food, disaster, climate and weather, and find a project. Okay, so we have Ice Watch, My Coast. And one thing I was thinking about the other day, like with My Coast, even if you're not currently, Richmond, we're not right on the coast. But what if you were planning a vacation down to the Outer Banks or Virginia Beach? You could very easily incorporate doing some citizen science work while you were down there as well. And that could be really great if you are vacationing with children, because that might actually spark their interest in science a little bit more, because they're actually doing the field work, which is the fun stuff. Okay. And I see Change, it's a climate one, but they have an app that you could actually download and use on your phone. So if you are taking a hike, or you're just going around your neighborhood, or you're going to the beach or whatever, you can track what is going on around you in the world. In order to use this website, you would just need to create a free account with them with your name, your email address, and they want information like your age and so forth, so they can track and say, who has been using their site. But it has links to the actual apps, and it tells you like the ideal age, or skill sets that you would need, or if you need any particular materials. The age group, again, is great if you are working with kids, or if you're not working with kids, if you only want to see science experiments that would be good for adults that aren't geared towards kids, you can do that. And here we have a bunch of ones that are specifically good for adults. So you could follow the whale stranding. And the first one to come up is Monarch Watch Tagging Program. They're still doing that. They're still tagging monarch butterflies. For Diane, let's do a search for birds here. Whoops, find projects. Here we have Wild Watch, prey deliveries in owl nests. That would actually be pretty cool, because I bet you would be looking at a bunch of film of owls' nests, like cams of owls' nests. And you can do science from around the world. You could actually help with a project in the Niger Delta. I did do, let's see. Some searches of ones that I thought would be kind of neat. I'm going to do search up here for some different titles. Solar. And this is something that is weather related, but it's Solar Storm Watch. And you actually analyze pictures from spacecraft monitoring the sun. And of course, you can access it from any computer. They have a short description and talk about how to get started. It's exclusively online, and it does have astronomy and space, but as we all know, the solar storms really do impact, here on the Earth. It impacts our weather as well. We have, let me do one here. Do either of you have any pets?
No.
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Okay. There's a cat tracker. If you were interested in that, you could help track feral cats. One that I thought was very interesting was stall catchers. And this again is looking at film that scientists have actually already created. It's film from microscopes looking at mouse brains. It's a science experiment looking into helping find a cure for Alzheimer's. And they're tracking how blood flows through the brain in mice to see if the clogged blood vessels will affect Alzheimer's. And you have a little bit of a training where you learn how to follow the film and then tell them whether or not there are any stalling of the blood flow within the brain. And it's almost like a little video game, but instead of trying to shoot up other people, you're helping to find a cure for Alzheimer's, which I think is pretty interesting. And this is just, of course, science. There are other crowdsourcing projects that are not necessarily science-based. There's a lot that are history-based, which has to do with transcribing. Some local ones are the Virginia Memory Project through the Library of Virginia, where they have digitized a bunch of their local history, and they need help transcribing it all. There's also Notes from Nature, where that is historical and scientific at the same time. Notes for Nature helps transcribe older scientific studies, like from the turn of the century and earlier, that have been digitized. There's just so much crowdsourcing out there that you can do. If you are interested in science specifically, I can't recommend enough getting on one of these two websites and just searching and finding something that you would be interested in. And Diane, I think a lot of them you would not need to have a super fast computer connection in order to do.
Yeah.
Do either of you have any questions about this?
No, I don't think so.
Diane?
No, I don't have any questions.
Did you want to take a look at any of these just to see what it's like in order to actually do any of the experiments? Whoops. I think that I go back. Oh, I need to log in, that's why, okay. I had saved some. Okay. Let's see. Here's old weather. So there is actually an overlap, because if you remember, we saw the old weather on the government website, but we're also seeing it here on the SciStarter. So, or excuse me, yeah, SciStarter. So the SciStarter is going to have government science projects as well as colleges and nonprofits and so forth. SciStarter is going to have the larger amount. Oh, here is the rain, hail, and snow network. So if you wanted to provide weather data, you could do it through here. And then just send in. And the only thing you would need to get was a manual rain gauge, but I bet you could pick one of those up at Lowe's. And it only takes about 15 minutes a day. Now, you would have to watch their information, like learn how to do it. And that would take a few minutes. But yeah, it's super easy to sign up. Like I said, all you need is an email address. It doesn't cost anything to participate. Depending on the project that you're doing, you might need to, like here with the rain gauge, you might need to purchase one of that. But once you purchase it, you have it. Usually the apps that you would download, if there are apps that you download on your phone, are free. All it takes is interest and time. And you're going to be contributing. And I can't believe it. I think maybe I was talking too quickly. But that is basically what I have.
It's been very interesting.
Good. Diane, how about you? Do you have any questions or comments you want to share?
No, I don't. I'm familiar with this SciStarter. I did look at that a couple times. But the other one I didn't know about, the DACA one. So I'm going to explore that one a little more.
Okay, good, good. Yeah. And one of them I know, the citizenscience.gov has links to the big backyard bird count, which is coming up in February. And you said that you've done that in past years.
Yeah.
Do you think you would do it again?
Oh yeah, I've been doing it for 5-6 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. And can you tell me a little bit about your experiences with that? Because I was kind of curious about it myself.
The one in February is just for the weekend. And
Okay.
you just watch the birds. You can watch them as long or as little as you want. And the important thing is to record it, to enter your data into eBird, which is the Cornell University's website where you enter your data on your birds. And that's what the most important part. And the same goes for the Project Feeder Watch, and that's from November through February. And you watch it 2 consecutive days in a row. I watch the birds, I should say, 2 consecutive days in a row, but not closer than 5 days between the 2-day period. So like once a week, basically. And that again, it depends on how long you want to watch it, and it's just real easy to do, and it really makes you look at the birds and what's going on in your backyard more than you would in just sitting around your house. It's a great diversion in the wintertime too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Especially if you get the bird feeders right outside your window, so you can sit there in your dining room table and drink your cup of coffee and count your birds. And a good, interesting thing I've learned the last 3 years I've done it, I've had a group of 12 cardinals come to my house every winter and stay the whole winter. And then one day, a group of migrating cardinals will come, so that I'll have 20 out there. And then the migrating birds will leave the next day, but the other 12 will stay for the rest of the winter. Very interesting.
Do you know what causes some cardinals to migrate and others not to? Is it just that they're originally from colder climes?
It could be that they're going back to where they were born, and a lot of birds do that. I've heard the robins do that also. Some migrate a shorter distance. Some would migrate down from Maine and those states down here for the winter, and then some from here would migrate down south to Florida, whatever, for the winter. So it all depends, on what the birds feel like doing. Okay. And some birds just migrate up and down a mountain. They go up the mountain in the summer and down or up the mountain in the whatever the winter, it depends on. But some of them just do upward and downward migration too.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I always think of it as being north to south.
Yeah,
north to south. I don't think of elevation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, unless anyone else has any questions, I think we are going to just wrap it up from there. Hugh, did you have anything to contribute, or?
No, I don't. I appreciate this.
Okay. If either of you stop into the Atlee Library, I would love to hear if you actually decide to contribute to other citizen scientist projects. Diane, if you do something besides the birding, and Hugh, if you decide to do something with the weather, that would be really cool. I think I am going to continue with the Alzheimer's project. And I think I might also, there is one called, what is it? It's looking at different galaxies, photographs of galaxies that have been taken by NASA telescopes, and deciphering what type of galaxies they are. And of course, we know that there are billions of galaxies out there. So yeah. I think, every time you think you've finished with it, someone will come up with another project to do. So you're always learning.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate you spending the time.
Yeah, thank you for all the great information.
Yeah, and just to let you know, this is probably going to be the last Zoom program we'll have in a while, although who knows, things can change. Starting in September, we are going to have in-person programming. September 1st, we have an adult programming on geocaching. If either of you would be interested in attending that, it should be really great. We actually have a geocache hidden here in the library that a patron has given us. And so if you're ever interested in learning a new hobby, you can do that. But just please look at our library calendar for upcoming events, and we would love to see you. And let me know too, if you ever have something that you're curious about or you want to learn more about that you think would make a great library program, maybe we can make it work. Okay. Well, thank you very much for both of you coming, and I hope to look forward to seeing you again.